All right, guys, today we got to talk about Nintendo Switch 2. We got some news for you today, and some of it's a little confusing. I kind of think that there might be a little bit of misinformation going out there, and I don't know that it's particularly the person sharing the information whose fault. Maybe it's the person who told them the information. Also, I think that there's more to it than what is being said, and we'll get into it. But we have to deal first with the fact-based information, and that has to do with compatibility between Switch 1 and Switch 2 and the various accessories and all of that. So we're going to dive into that here in a moment. Before we do, I want to remind you, we are giving away a Nintendo Switch 2 right now. All you have to do is go down and enter in the comment or the link in the description, and I wish all of you guys luck. All right, let's go ahead and dive in. And the first piece we have here deals with this. This is the official Switch 2 dock. We're on the Japanese website, so I see Japanese at the top. But we translated to English here with Google Translate. And what we're really focusing on, it has nothing to do with this pre-order period and buying all this stuff. It actually has to do with compatibility. So when we come down here, we see usable main unit, the Nintendo Switch 2. What you'll notice is that Switch OLED, Nintendo Switch, and Nintendo Switch Lite are not selected. That means, at least according to this website, and it is Nintendo, that the Nintendo Switch dock is not compatible with the Nintendo Switch 1. Now, if you think about the Switch 1, obviously it is smaller, so with the Joy-Cons attached, it wouldn't even fit in the dock. But what if you took the Joy-Cons off? Would it work? Well, according to Nintendo, it doesn't. Obviously, we will test that for ourselves firsthand on June 5th when we do our massive live stream. We do like an 8-hour live stream. But it is really interesting to think about this prospect of, compatibility between Switch 1 and Switch 2. I mean, some people even want to know, if you put a Switch 2 and a Switch 1 dock, what happens? Does it work at all? What if you use like a USB-C cable pass-through link? Will that work then too? So look, these are questions that we have to obviously answer in person, and we will on June 5th. But right now, obviously Nintendo on their website is just trying to tell you, hey, in general, not compatible. Makes a lot of sense. Now, this last bit of stuff comes from details that are coming out of the Nintendo Switch 2 experience out of Dallas. And these details deal with things we really want to know about the Nintendo Switch 2. Some of these details seem pretty much already confirmed in some ways by what we've already seen publicly, while other details don't seem to line up exactly with what we have seen, at least, from Nintendo so far. So we gotta talk about this stuff because I do think it's rather interesting. And I gotta make sure we give a big shout out to friend of the channel, Mike Odyssey over here. He put this up out there. He was at the Dallas event. He's got, before we even look at this, he's got photos of himself at the Dallas event, just proving he was there. So you can see this photo here. So look, if you guys want to doubt that he actually went there and he actually played, he went hands-on with the Switch 2. It's undeniable. He was at the experience. He has his pass there, although it's mirrored. So yeah, he obviously was at the Dallas experience and did get to go hands-on. Although I don't see a ton of photos besides this one here that he maybe took inside, but who knows? He's probably got a video up on his channel or working on a video for his channel. But we got to get into the details he shared here because most of this will be probably disappointing for many, but I also think it doesn't tell the full picture. So he says, a couple of details I confirmed at the Nintendo Switch 2 experience in Dallas after playing Switch 2. I'm completely fine with it. I already miss it. Well, I mean, he misses being at the experience. So number one is no major UI overhaul, more like a minor facelift, which, of course, we actually kind of already know that one to be true because we've seen actually some images of the UI, such as this and that. And look, we know things are more rounded. We know there's some new icons, but in general, it looks very, very similar. So I'm not really surprised there. He also goes on to note that there is no music on the UI, although there are some new sounds, which again, doesn't surprise me. I know some people wanted menu music and all this stuff. It doesn't appear that there is any, and I don't really doubt that because again, it's very much like the same operating system as the Switch 1, just obviously updated and touched up for Switch 2. But this is the one that I don't know that I get. The eShop is very similar to Switch 1, but with the same facelift in fonts, shapes, and it feels more like an application. So what he is saying, and to the good news here, is it feels like an app. So it could be a localized app instead of running through a web browser, which is how it works on Switch 1. For those who don't know, part of the reason it's so sluggish on Switch 1 is it's actually loading a web browser. So yeah, it probably is a local app on Switch 2. That's the good news. But having the very similar to Switch 1, with a facelift and fonts and shapes, I actually don't think that's 100% accurate. And I don't doubt that this was what Mike was told because he probably got told this by reps when he was asking questions at the event. But we know that it's not just that because of this video right here. And this video comes directly from Nintendo. And while, yes, there are some similarities, and I do think that eShop isn't going to look like drastically different, we know there's already a new feature in the eShop where it's actually suggesting you games. So we can't sit there and be like, well, yeah, it's similar, but only has like a facelift with fonts and shapes, when we've already seen that they've actually added an entirely new feature to the eShop. So there could be other new features in the eShop. There could be other ways it's organizing games that we just don't know about. So I think it might be true to say, like, if you just glance at them quickly, they might feel or at least look on the surface to be the same. But we already know there's a major change with the Nintendo Switch 2 eShop, which I gotta admit, very happy about that major change because we really needed it. So yeah, I do think that this is not necessarily misinformation, but something that isn't wholly true in so much as the way that it sounds like here. Again, I don't doubt that Mike was told this stuff, but again, we've already seen directly from Nintendo. There is a major new feature in the eShop. There could be other new things, new bells and whistles, new organization methods as well. All right, as we get in here to the last one, it says no major themes, just light and dark mode, which that one's going to upset people. Let's just be honest. If there's just light and dark, people are going to be mad. They want game themes. They want all this stuff. I'm not saying they can't add it in the future. They could have added it the whole Switch generation, and they didn't. To me personally, it doesn't really matter that much. I actually like the clean Nintendo Switch UI, so maintaining a similar feel to me, it's kind of like an iPhone. When you get a new iPhone, it's pretty much the same UI, although obviously we can customize backgrounds. I do think that it's unfortunate. I think themes would have been welcomed by many, but I also remind myself, and I do this every time, that the whole point of a UI is to just get to where you're going quickly. And for the most part, you could do that on Switch. It wasn't that hard to get to where you want to be, open your game quickly. It was the eShop to me that was a huge pain that I felt like needed a complete overhaul. And I said the first thing they need to do is make it a local application, which is something Mike isn't saying. Definitively, he says it, his own words, it feels more like an app. He's not saying it's an app. I kind of think it's probably an app, but I don't think that it's just extremely similar to Switch 1 because, again, we've already seen footage of what looks like a massively improved eShop, not just from a speed perspective, but literally having game suggestions based on what you've played and what your friends are playing. That's already a massive improvement. We just have to hope there's other organizational and search improvements made to the actual eShop. As an example, if I already bought a game, it shouldn't show up in the sales area. Like, hey, I already bought like Tears of the Kingdom. So if I go to the sales page, it shouldn't show me like sales for Tears of the Kingdom. Now, I'm talking about obviously if you buy it digitally. If you buy it physically, I can see why they might still show up. But when you buy it digitally, it should recognize that I already own that and not put that in a list of sales items. But anyways, we'll see. There's a lot of other organizational methods I want to see. But we already know there's game suggestions. That's already like the biggest thing I feel like they needed to do besides make the snappiness and the speed of the eShop better. So look, obviously, this is just stuff he heard at the Dallas event. Whether or not it was from a direct Nintendo employee, I don't know. Whether or not it was just from somebody who worked there and was just told specific things for the event, I don't know. Obviously, there's a lot of unknowns when it comes to the Nintendo Switch 2. And it's kind of interesting because we know it comes out June 5th. And when I say there's a lot of unknowns, we know what we need to know, right? We know the price points. We know the games that are going to be on it. We know the basic functionality of the platform. And that's really all we need to know. But there's a lot of other questions, like because one game is showing that, like, hey, or at least they stated publicly, you could take the Switch 2 cartridge, put it in the Switch 1 and play the Switch 1 version of the game. Okay, so can I take the Switch 2 cartridge of Tears of the Kingdom, Switch 2 edition, and can I put that in Switch 1 and play Tears of the Kingdom on there, but then also put it on Switch 2 and play the Switch 2 version of it? Is that something that can be done, or is that like a one-off thing a third-party company is doing? Are a lot more games going to try to do that, where they make a Switch 2 version that also can run on Switch 1? I'm going to be very curious to see, we're going to test that out. I literally bought a Tears of the Kingdom Switch 2 edition. I know, $80, you don't got to tell me. It's burning a hole in my wallet. I literally already own not only a collector's version of the game, I own a Japanese digital copy and a North American digital copy. You don't got to tell me. It's the fourth time I'm buying the damn game. But, one thing about being a content creator, sometimes you have to buy things that you're not really happy with the price of just to test things out. And the bottom line is I have to test it out. So it's also a fantastic game. So I could have went with a cheaper Switch 2 edition game, but I kind of decided mentally that if I'm going to buy a Switch 2 edition game, because I own all the ones that they're listing, I might as well buy the one that is my favorite game of all time. Like, oh no, I have another physical copy of Tears of the Kingdom. I think I can live with having another physical copy to put on the shelf, even though $80 is pretty steep. That being said, yeah, we don't know questions about that. Obviously, people have questions about, hey, how does like sharing a game key card work? Like, can you put it on someone else's Switch, which we know you can borrow the cartridge, but then once they do an online check, does it have to re-online check on my system if I take that cartridge and put it back in mine? Once we get the online checks on both systems, can we just freely pass that cartridge back and forth without needing the internet? Those are things people want to know. People want to know what happens if you put a game key card in and there's no internet connection. What does it say on screen? What kind of error message does it give? Does it even give an error message? People want to know a lot of things about all the stuff going on with Nintendo Switch 2. What happens, since we now know Switch 2 cards can get put into a Switch 1, what happens if we take a Switch 2 exclusive game, let's say Cyberpunk 2077 physical, and we put that in a Switch 1? What does the Switch 1 say when we do that? Again, these are all things that we're going to be experimenting with on June 5th. There's so many unknown questions. We're doing an 8-hour live stream for you guys going over all of that. But again, to go over all the stuff again that Mike was supposedly told at the Dallas event, no major UI overhaul, more like a minor facelift, which we kind of have confirmed. No music in the UI, which that's unfortunate, but there are new sounds, so cool. The eShop's very similar to Switch 1, but with the same facelift and fonts, shapes, and feels more like an app. However, Nintendo has actually shown us some new features for the eShop already, so kind of interesting. And then no major themes, just the light and dark mode, which again, dark mode all the way. I know Nintendo uses light mode in all their advertising, but to me, dark mode's the way to go. I'm sure a lot of you guys out there are also dark mode kind of people. All right, that's going to do it, guys, for today's video. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. I am Nathaniel Rovajance from Nintendo Prime. Obviously, the Milwaukee Bucks and Indiana Pacers play tonight. There's other playoff games going on in the NBA. I got to represent. I got like the new city colors because I have a sweatshirt that matches this hat. Obviously, I got the Giannis jersey here, the big 3-4, and we're gonna be trying to even up this series tonight. We'll see what happens. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll catch you in the next video.